What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. It is the Monday show here on GMG, the monthly free episode, which, if you have not been part of one of these before, is when we hang out. We basically take questions from the chat, take questions from the patron mailbag, and we do the thing that we do every single week on Mondays on GMG, which is where we talk about what's going on in the world of wargaming, take questions about the industry and sort of what's going on inside GMG. And we plan out the things that we're going to do next, in particular the Indie Hour, which is patron produced, and they pick the game that we review every single week. So we put a poll up usually after the show is over. They get to nominate new games that go in there, and then they vote on which one we will cover for the week. So last week they picked a pirate skirmish game from Firelock Games called Port Royale for you guys to check out. And you'll be seeing that air on Wednesday. And today in the afternoon they'll be picking a new game, which we will then get organized and review, and sometimes even play on the channel. So if you're wondering how indie games typically get covered and get picked here on GMG, the Indie Hour is the number one sort of like, we had a big bottleneck for it for a while. If games weren't in print, I had a hard time reviewing them, but we figured out the Indie Hour basically so that in the last, we're on episode 35, so 35 weeks this has been going. For the first 10 episodes, we did 2 games per episode, so 20 plus 25, we're at 45 games covered. And that's in 35 weeks, which means not quite a year. So like 8 months, basically, roughly 8 months. We've been managing to cover basically the 36 weeks would be next week. That'll be about 8 months. And we've covered a huge chunk of games, which are all sort of like small print, small press, or boutique company games that probably wouldn't get more attention. So if you guys haven't been hanging out one of these before, I'm going to take a minute to say hi to the chat, see what's going on with everybody. It's going to get way past me. Usually we have like 20 to 30 people at any given time that can hang out for an hour on a Monday, and they come and go. Like, it's usually like 50 people over the course. It's about 550-ish patrons, but those that can't catch it live, they're in time zones all over the world. So I try and say hi to everybody, but usually we have like 100 people watching when I do these live, and it gets going fast and gets away from me. But GD Smith and the Saturday Night Live Band is here, and Kevin Trader's here, Ben Taster and Muse is here, Zug's here, Ryan Dunphy's here, Dan Fox here, Grizz Christofferson is here, Atron X is here, Colin Morrison here, the Tom Kush is here, John Ashley Smith is here, and Alan Nuttall Angry Pants is also here. So I hope everybody is doing well, and you caught up with what's going on the weekend. As you can see from my background here, 2 of the big weekend releases we did reviews for Void Fighters, which is Casey Garsk's new game. If you guys aren't familiar with Casey, then you probably haven't checked out the Sword Weirdos and Space Weirdos games. They were kind of like rules light, hashtag 28 games Casey made early on, kind of in that movement, and are really, really good. They're like, they've already been covered on GMG's Indie Hour. You can go back and check out reviews of them. So if you want to see inside the dashboard on those ones, they're very low impact, very like modeling forward. A bit in the vein of like Forbidden Song. It's funny because like we're at a point now in GMG where like I reference other indie games to talk about indie games, and it's turning into like an indie punk show where like you reference bands no one's ever heard of to try and describe bands no one's ever heard of. So, but the good news is they've been covered, so you can go back and you can actually check out the games for yourself and maybe get a view of what we're doing. But since that's all kicked off, we had the idea basically during the review, and it seemed to be pretty well like received in the comment section for Void Fighters, of doing a $20 challenge. And the $20 challenge is basically, can I play a game for $20 going to like craft stores and the dollar store and thrift stores and stuff and trying to find the pieces to do it. And Void Fighters is a fun one. So I think the one thing I'm going to have to pull out of the $20 challenge for this game in particular is polyhedral dice, because I did a little research, and the cheapest I could find, like getting 2 sets of polyhedral dice, which is, polyhedral dice is the D&D dice set, right? So like D6s, D8s, like D4 through D20 basically. The cheapest I could find them for was $9.99. So my entire budget would just be the fucking dice to play the game if I couldn't do it. But it feels like a good thing. I'm as summer rolls down basically, and my outside of GMG commitments, which is my kids obviously, and making sure they have a good summer, start to wind back. I get to do like more daily content and freeform content. One of the first things I think would be fun to do is that. So I'm going to check out, I've already got a shopping cart going for the dollar store to see, like, kind of get an idea of what's there. But the problem is that when you go to do these things, you often find that like there's a bottleneck where some stores have some things that other stores don't have. So I don't really trust the internet, but I can get pretty much everything I need to make. And there was a thing for a little while, and maybe I'll Google this and show you guys. There was a website. Wow, it's not a website actually. It was a Facebook group, because I'm old and I still use Facebook and groups. It's funny how Facebook has turned into like, adjust this camera a little bit. Facebook has turned into like the internet forums of yesteryear, where like people don't really use it anymore. But there was a Facebook group called Super Cheap Wargaming, and there was like a trend in Super Cheap Wargaming like a year ago. Where people were making, trying to make games for $20, but they also were making spaceship games out of clothespins, and I was very interested in doing that. So I might try the Super Cheap Wargaming thing, where maybe I can find I'm just gonna see if I can find images on Google Images. Super Cheap Wargaming, clothespin fleets. But this is one of those ones where I think it would be a good candidate for it. And yeah, here we go. Okay, great. Yeah, I can actually show you guys. These are super impressive, if I'm being honest. This is just what Google image search brings in for clothespin fleets, and you can see here these are all kit bashed, like literally out of clothespins. And it was a really fun trend for a minute where people would make these like really interesting, and you kind of paint on a lot of the detail. But I'm planning on doing this, I think, for this game. We're gonna dive in and do some Super Cheap Wargaming for the fleets and the ships, and it's fun, man. You can find different sizes of paper clips, or somebody else making it here out of like just like random bits and bobs, Star Crashers. And yeah, people are gonna be like, well, why don't you just 3D print them? You can get a million 3D printed things online. Well, it's like, yeah, but that defeats the point. The point is like, could your kid go do this, right? So I think that's what we're gonna do. Anyway, so that was one of the two reviews. And then the other one, which I was really excited about actually, is Paul Bantock's new game, which, if you haven't checked it out, is a banger of like a fantasy game, and very well timed with the current Cool Mini or Not news, which is that, you know, the things aren't going great for Cool Mini or Not, and they're posting like a massive, which we can talk about in a minute. They're posting like a massive like profit warning again, where that they've got like another $8 million in short revenue. They've got I think it's 12 million in like deals to sell their IPs. But this is kind of like what you could do with your Song of Ice and Fire minis if you wanted to, which is this game right here, Black Iron Sigil. And I reviewed this weekend. Let's get back. You can see some of the artwork here. And it's a fantasy based, like, I want to say like company level, but like you're using like 30 to 50 models. And it's evil wizards. We basically killed off all the elder races, and it's a non-movement tray, almost like Age of Sigmar movement and like unit formations. But you can make your own army lists, right? So your army composition is just, you have to have line infantry to unlock the other units. So it's a really simple army construction, but whatever you want, whether it's cavalry, artillery, monsters, and cultists, which is like weird unit champions and stuff, you can kind of make the theme fit whatever your army looks like already. So I was planning on digging out my Song of Ice and Fire stuff and doing some cool, because the free folk would make great Path of Bone dudes. And then I was thinking the Path of either Sinew or Synapse for my, or Path of Blood even. I could use my Boltons and do the Path of Blood. Anyway, there's a ton of shit for my Song of Ice and Fire things to do. And it's the same kind of like low fantasy setting. But that was the other review for the weekend, if you guys haven't checked it out. Dan's got to go. He's going to be in a meeting until 5. I'm sorry. And then Ashran says, hooray, we have our own snobbish meta now. I don't know if it's snobbish. It's just, I realize that sometimes when I speak in these videos, I'm comparing things because I have this knowledge and I've put it into video. So I assume that the viewer has this knowledge. I'm comparing small press things to small press things, and you kind of have to be in the GMG community to really understand what the hell I'm saying sometimes. So I gotta pump my own brakes, which is what I was trying to do there. And then John Ashley Smith says, man, if there's a BFG reissue, I'll go broke. And then Zach says, Dollar Store used to have polyhedrals. They did for a minute, actually, during like the D&D boom, they had polyhedral dice, but that's the one thing I'm gonna have to like cut out of the budget. So I'm just going to do like gaming accessories and the miniatures themselves out of that $20 budget and see what I can do at the dollar store. Tom said, don't trust the internet. That's fair. I wouldn't either. Ryan said, Facebook, where your aunt shares all the new conspiracy theories that she 100% believes in and just shares with the caption, so sad. I mean, you're not wrong. Luckily, most of my family that is that crazy have not stayed in touch with me, so I'm pretty much okay. Lamash just says, Ryan, if you're not to mention the uncle who's very proud of the AI-generated image that he made. That proves the conspiracy theory. Yeah. Atron X says it inherently becomes snobbish if normal people don't know what you're talking about. I think snobbish is the wrong word because you can slip into it easily. I think you're right that it becomes slightly gate-kept or like exclusionary, which I'm trying not to be, right? So that's why I'm trying to pump my own brakes here and be like, you can go check. Here's where you'd find this information for these references that I'm stupidly making without any context. Andrew B says, make sure to put Patreon. Every time I forget this, your boy working 60 hours a week to try and bring this stuff down. Yeah. Pray for your boy working 60-hour weeks. Do we pray for all of us working 60-hour weeks? David Letizia says, hopefully Cool Mini or Not finally sells the Dark Age IP. Man, I would love that. I think that would be a wonderful thing. I don't think it's going to happen, though. And there's like a bunch of reasons behind it. And part of it's going to be probably who owns all that Braum art. Part of it's going to be the design itself. Part of it's going to be that Dave Doust is the creator of that IP and pulled it all together. And he's one of the founders of Cool Mini or Not. That's not, I don't know if I don't actually know, but he might still be, I think he's on the board of directors. Let's see what David Doust is still doing for Cool Mini or Not. Cool Mini or Not. Just a quick Google search here. He's co-CEO in 2020. Simon Limited announces David Doust as co-CEO. So he's working as co-CEO. And then we've got Simon Limited, formerly known as Cool Mini or Not, is a publicly listed venture company. Key people are Shernan Ng, who's the CEO, and Dave Doust, co-founder. He was co-CEO then. I wonder what their trading on their website says. Sure, I'll allow all the cookies. Oh my God, I don't want to subscribe to your email. Just let me go to your website, bro. Game projects, products, brands and offices, China, Japan, stores, shops, news, game projects. There should be an investor relations, terms and conditions, legal information, crowdfunding, about us, and investor relations. There we go. This is the part of the website where you're going to find out what's going on. Under corporate governance. Okay, yeah, accept your cookies. If you guys ever want to go look at this stuff, here's where you go. We got the audit committee directors list. So right now, it's the executive directors and chairman still Ng Chernan, and then Mr. David Doust is on the board with Mr. Ko Zheng K. Non-executive directors, and then independent non-executive directors. And this is it. So that's the board over there. That's what it looks like. And Dave's still on the board as an executive director. So there's 3 executive directors and he's still there. I believe he was the creator. Well, I don't believe that. I know he was. I talked to him for quite a long time at the last convention, the last Cool Mini or Not convention that was in Atlanta. Simon Dave Doust. Let's just pull that up. But he owned Dark Age, or created Dark Age. And I believe it still resides with him partially. Here's his Wall Street Journal ads. He is the founder. So here we go. Simon Limited. Dave Doust is the founder of Dark Age Games Incorporated, founded in 2002. Cool Mini or Not Incorporated, founded in 2001. And Cool Mini Limited, founded in 2015. He's currently executive director of Decon Holdings. He's an aquarium guy in Descore. You got University of Maryland in 87. Okay, so like that's the market stuff for him from Wall Street Journal. If you guys want to go look at that. And Dark Age Games was, again, he was the founder of, right? So he created that way back in the day. But I believe it still resides with him. So I don't know if he'll sell it. I don't know if Dark Age Games even still exists or if it's been rolled into Cool Mini or Not. Interestingly enough, what's this? Dark Age Rulebook. NVE 2001 digital rulebook. Contents. Check for Dark Age. The Dark Age marker reaches the last bar on the track. Oh, it's a Civilizations Enter a Dark Age. Some board game thing. Anyway, doesn't matter. Short story long, he's still there. I doubt he's going to sell that because as long as he's still part of Cool Mini or not, he probably wants to keep it in house. Brian Francis, Cool Mini probably forgot they own Dark Age. Definitely not, because Dave made it. Kevin Trader says, I funded the Fighting Fantasy Kickstarter after you played it. They just got delivered and they look great. I can't wait for them to play them with the kids. Thanks for the coverage. Woohoo! That's so exciting. Fuck, I love Fighting Fantasy. If you guys haven't checked out the Fighting Fantasy reprints, they're reprinting the original, like, I think 5 first books for Ian Livingston and Steve Jackson's Fighting Fantasy. Deep cut for gaming history. If you guys don't know the history of Fighting Fantasy, the founders of Games Workshop, Livingston and Jackson, there's a third founder. He doesn't get talked about very much, including in Dice Man, which kind of sucks, which is their biography of the formation of the company. They become authors for these choose your own adventure books called Fighting Fantasy in like the late 80s, early 90s. And I played, that's how I discovered Games Workshop. As a kid, I played these choose your own adventure books because I got in a fucking bad fight in the schoolyard. And I was sentenced in the middle of winter in Canada to sit next to the flagpole basically every recess for like a month. And so I found these books in the library, and they're basically little D&D adventures. And you had 2 dice, a pencil, and an eraser. It tracks your stats. You would actually do combat and stuff like that. It's super cool. And in the back of it was an ad for Citadel Miniatures, which is how I discovered Citadel Miniatures and role-playing in general. And those 2 guys sold the company in a management buyout in 91 to Tom Kirby, who then ran it for the next 20 something. They're almost 30 years. A pretty like important piece of gaming history, and they're reprinting the originals. And the important thing is here with the original art, because they did a reprint like 10 years ago, which Jay and I both started buying, and they'd sanitized the art to shit, and it was not good. So getting the original art back is a huge deal. So I'm super excited you got that. That's really, really cool. So that's awesome, Kevin. I'm excited to see those, man. And they'll be super fun to play with the kids. My kids love them. Poodles with Gun says, oh god, yes, please don't let them sell Dark Age and bring it back. I never had a chance to play it, but I'm totally ready now. You can play it. I mean, it still exists out there. It's super cool. And it's not hard to find miniatures for. They all got kind of blown out. Let's see if I can still buy Dark Age miniatures. I can't buy them off their site because they blew them out, but I bet like Noble Knight has them somewhere. If they had a 2-player start set, that's awesome. Oh, Proclaim Dark Age. Oh my god, they still have a website? What the fuck? It's still... Don't subscribe to your fucking newsletter, Cool Mini. It's still here. Can you still buy these? What the hell? Currently unavailable. Okay, yeah. It's so fucking weird that it's still on their website. That's so weird. Yeah, and like, look at how cool this was, man. The factions were awesome. The art was great. They had core sets for every army for $45. Those cool ass minis. Those are older minis too, and they still look great. Oh man, that sucks. I got super excited there because it was still on the website for a second. I fucking love this game. I have all these minis. These are the classic original minis too. These are from 2001. Some of these minis. Look at how well they're sculpted. And I wonder if some of those are actually the Jen Haley paint jobs. I think they are. Because Jen Haley is the original painter for all these miniatures. I bet these are the Jen Haleys. She was kind of one of the North American innovators of non-metallic metal. And you can tell how those paint jobs are kind of like early versions of that. But man, she's a great painter. Her blending was fantastic. What great models. Oh, Dark Age. Thanks for bringing up Dark Age, guys, because I fucking love this game. It's so cool. It's got Braum as the artist. It's just, well worth walking down memory lane about. Come on. Josh Smith says, I may have convinced my retired buddy Crazy Dave to play 40K again. Thanks, Ash. That's cool. I mean, why not? That's a game that you can play at any level that you want. In fact, there's a whole, like, since I started posting the 3rd edition games, there's like a whole movement of people who are like adapting current miniatures from Games Workshop to like older rule sets that I've discovered online. There's like a weird underground revolution of people that want to play old 40K with new miniatures, and I'm fine. Yeah, it's great. Why not do it? I think that'd be a fun thing to do. Just like refute. It's basically just like a what's the word? It's like a non-violent protest. Like, you'll still buy the miniatures, but you just adapt them to the older rule sets. Like, you refuse to participate in the current rules and just be like, bye. Major Havoc's getting the Fighting Fantasy books too. That's amazing. Al Shield says those books are a whole childhood. That and the Lone Wolf books. It's funny because Lone Wolf never really made it to Canada, so people talk really fondly about Lone Wolf. And now that I know the history about how Lone Wolf kind of broke off from Fighting Fantasy, and it was actually a bunch of GW employees, or a couple of GW employees that were in the middle of working for them writing those books that left, it all makes a lot more sense. So let's go to the Patron mailbag and see who's got some questions in here. Oh my God. Okay. There's only one question here. I'm going to throw, I forgot how when I don't post the link, everybody forgets how to get to it. So I'm just going to go on Patreon real fast and post the Patron link for people to put questions in the mailbag. Because there's only one. If you guys are looking for where the mailbag is, I'm just going to post. You know what? Maybe I'll just pin it. If I just pin it, can I do that? Create, post. And I can just pin the mailbag. The problem is I pin the, it's fine. I pin the Indie Hour poll usually, but I'm just going to pin the mailbag for when people lose it. Because then it won't be an issue. Don't you guys love when I do admin work, basically, whenever you guys are online live with me? Add a collection. We're going to do this on the Monday hang, and then we're going to just publish it now. All right. If you guys are looking for the mailbag, it's there. It just got published. But I will take the question from Gene real fast. There's also, if you do join the Patreon, there's also a running gag where the first question on here is basically one of like the patrons asked half a question and just like trailed off and didn't finish typing it, and then like left to go to a meeting or some shit, and then didn't come back for 3 months. And all the other patrons basically started writing in like reasons why he never came back. So there's a whole question that we've just collectively agreed to never erase now that's turned into an inside joke about the lore of what happened to Marky Battle Bassett. And then he came back after like 2 months and finally read it and got in trouble at work because he was laughing so hard in his office while he was reading it that like HR got called. Anyway, Genie29 says, thanks for having the almost TED Talk. It helped clarify a few things about the clique issue. So this is in reference to something we talked about last week in the Monday show. Gene had a question about like a pretty complicated topic, I think, which is how do you, if you have like a standard that you like your hobby to be at, that like it's the thing that you find fulfilling about the hobby, and let's say that's fully painted armies on a nicely painted table, and that you play the game like in a certain way where like the spectacle is kind of important, and you're confronted with you know, a new gamer in your gaming ecosphere that doesn't value those things. And how do you like talk to those people to still get the satisfaction from your hobby that you want to get, while still like being respectful of the fact that they just might not give a shit about any of that stuff. And it got kind of long in the, like, it was a very long conversation at one point. And it kind of boiled down to, well, it like you're allowed to have your boundaries about what you like and don't like when you're spending time and money doing something. But also you need to be respectful of other people's experiences on how you handle that. And it comes down to simple things like explaining to them how you enjoy the hobby, and then offering encouragement or help, you know what I mean? Like if that's a standard they can't get up to, you know, just asking curiosity, like approaching with curiosity, like, do you not like painting? Is there something we can help you with? Is there a way that we can teach you to paint quickly so that like everybody can get the best result? And it really kind of turned into a conversation about community. Anyway, that's what that references to. And then second, I've been looking around, but it's hard to find 15mm fantasy miniatures. Do they really exist? I was hoping to use them in my Final Fantasy Tactics homage that I've been writing. So not 15s, but Curiouser and Curiouser, our friends over at Wargames Atlantic. Let's open this in a new tab because I actually have Wargames Atlantic tab open for something I was going to talk about later. They have a new selection of the Dwarven Host, and this looks like it's going to be a new line they're doing of 10mm stuff. So 15s, the thing with 15s is they tend to be individually based, which is probably why you want that scale. But these little guys are close to that scale. They're not individually based as you might like. They're on strips. In fact, they look a lot like, and obviously they're inspired by the what's it called, the line for War Master, which were all in metal, but these are all in plastic, and they are great looking miniatures. You could very easily just play War Master with them. They got their little rounds for the character stands, the individual units and stuff too for your heroes. So No notes. They look great, and it looks like this is going to be the beginning of a line of fantasy stuff from War Games Atlantic. So if you're looking for something like that in a close enough scale, that's about the best I can do. Other than that, and this is just the next easiest option, is 3D print them. So like if you go to Etsy, well, not even Etsy, but there's got to be people doing 15 millimeter or like small scale mass combat fantasy STLs. You like how I've become the Google assistant for basically people doing this. Oh, a 10 millimeter fantasy mass battle game is on the horizon from OPR. Sounds like OPR is doing something with it. And if that's the case, then more likely than not, there's going to be some associated miniatures to go with it. And then just scale them up, right? So like if these, for instance, here we got something. We've got these STLs. Printing in detail raises new 10 millimeter undead. So printing in detail, and then you just change the scale. Just slice them and make the scale differently. Printing in detail sounds like an STL company that's probably doing something like that. And then, yeah, just upscale them to 15 millimeter. Feels like the right way to do it, and just bigify them to, or even just scale down larger STLs. You'll lose some detail, obviously, but print them in a different scale. But if you're looking for retail, then War Games Atlantic feels like it's going to be the place that you're going to find it, because that's the only one that seems to be able to actually pull it together in plastic right now. I'm going to wait for the mailbag to fill up. I'm going to go back to the chat and see what's going on. Poodles Again says, man, I heard Lone Wolf. I just had the opportunity to watch Lone Wolf and Cub in the Alamo Draft House. It's a great time. Shit, that's a great movie. Lone Wolf and Cub is fantastic. That and what was the other kind of dark anime at the time? Was it because Lone Wolf and Cub is it was a serial in the 70s, and I think they made it into an anime as well. And then the one I was thinking of that's in that similar kind of dark setting where it's like not a parabel. It's like an interpretation or a reimagining of something, is Jinro the Wolf Brigade, which is a reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood, which I really liked. Jonathan Smith says, it helps. I have scads of 2nd and 3rd edition metal models and 5 codexes, the double for Chaos and Eldar. Well, that's cool. Ben says, I remember Time Machines ones to Sword of the Samurai. Sword of the Samurai was definitely, I think it's in the original 10. And I think it's one of the first ones that wasn't written by Livingston and Jackson, because they got so busy at one point. They were touring Japan. They were kind of like North American pro wrestlers going to New Japan to wrestle in the 80s. They had invented this thing that like got translated into Japanese, and the Japanese market was the biggest market they had at one point outside the UK. And so they were like going to Japan to get like the Penguin Books or whatever. Puffin, who was their publisher, was like flying them over to do like shows, because like people were so obsessed with these books. It was very funny. Brent Grant's fucking we'll do it live. That's fair enough. Tom says, for when people lose it, Ash's people. I am. And then Ryan says, that whole question needs to be printed and framed. It should be the Patreon question, yeah. the Marquis Battle Bassett, like, Odyssey, where we basically wrote fan fiction for what was going on in his life. John Mashison says, love the art behind you for Void Fighters. He's dressed up like that all the time. It's kind of inspirational. That's a great one, yeah. John Smith says, tough to find 50mm sci-fi here too. Nothing but Flames of War. Flames of War obviously is historical. And then Kevin Trader says, a bunch of print files for War Master Revolution out there that you could scale up. Forest Dragon and Carmarty Forge has good stuff too. That's a good shout. And that was my next thought, basically, was take something that's already in existence for people to do like their own STLs for War Master and then just make it bigger. Ben says, Imitation of Life doesn't small scale Mordheim. Well, that's fair enough. Then Alan Wong says, upscale 3D prints is usually fine. Shrinking the weapons can be so thin they break when you breathe. That was my first thought of like, don't make them smaller, because I was trying to find something that was like War Master scale, because obviously it would explode. And then Gasman says, Pendragon has a 10mm fantasy range. Oh, I bet they do in retail too. I hadn't even thought about Pendragon in a while. Good shout. Pendragon, sorry. Pendragon 10mm. Let's have a look, you guys. Over 10,000 products for War Games, 10 to 12mm. Okay, this is closer than what you were talking about before. Well, they got all kinds of shit. Night Orcs, which are clearly Night Goblins. Samurai Apes. Taurians. All right, Bull People. And then just something called old, which means it looks like it's done in the older scale. Wood elves, undead, eldritch vampires, goblins, high elves, hill dwarves, dragon men, dark elves, beastmen with 2 E's. I like these legally distinct beastmen. This is great. Pack contains 25 figures. Yeah, these are all in metal, it looks like. So yeah, there you go, man. There's even more. Tons of options. Obviously, they're in a slightly different scale. The figures are a little taller than our historical ranges, a millimeter or 2 usually. We're constantly adding more of these ranges, so check out the latest updates. What is old? Egyptian mythology, League of Ratsburg, hobgoblins, sandorks, evil creatures, Hyduzmen, and accessories. I don't even know what that means, but let's look at accessories. I feel like it's going to be fun. Jim. That's the Beastman boy Chaos Warrior from Old Citadel. Kira. What is this? What are we looking at here? I don't even know what that's supposed to be. Conan, maybe? Like Girl Conan? And then Zombies Rising from the Grave? Sure. Sure, man. I'm here for it. But yeah, they got everything. Evil Centaurs. Hydusmen look like... League of Ratsburg is cool because it's just Skaven. Oh, they got everything. Musketeers, Grenadiers, Command. They're all individually based, too. This is probably close to what you want. There you go. Pendraken. Good shit there. My guys, man. Nathan Stadola, what's been your favorite war game of all time? So that's kind of a loaded question, because I get asked a lot, but it's actually pretty simple. I don't rate my favorite game of all time because my favorite game of all time is usually the one I'm currently playing with people that I like playing games with. So like, I have some really favorite times when I've been playing games, but it doesn't make me want to go play the game again. Does that make sense? Like, I have some really like wonderful memories of playing great games with great friends and having a really good time, but it doesn't necessarily make me want to get back to playing the game. The game I never get tired of playing, though, is still Infinity. And I think that is actually a lot to do with the nature of Infinity, where you can play the same armies, the same game, the same mission even, and have a completely different experience because the problem set changes. And even just changing the table changes the whole nature of the game. So I think that whatever my current, my wiring is neurologically, because I like puzzles and I like undoing puzzles, I think that Infinity probably is the game I always come back to. And I just never get tired of playing and talking about it. It's the only game I still like play semi-competitively because I enjoy, probably because there's so little actual variation between armies. And this is the thing that gets me in trouble with Infinity players, where I'm like, they're not, when you're using a base 20 stat system, a point or two of a stat is a 5 to 10% difference in like your ratios changing. And then you're spreading that out over multiple dice. So the fact is that in Infinity, most armies share a common weapons pool. And that's where like the number of times you get to roll a dice comes from. So every single army shares the same like range bands and gun types and stuff. So nobody really is equipped super differently. They have some mixes of skills and equipment that are different, but like you're using a common pool for 90% of the game. There's a few outliers, like certain skills like impersonation stuff that are unique, but for the most part, like Protheon. For the most part, a gun's a gun's a gun, a guy's a guy's a guy. And that means that you can play it relatively competitively because there's not a huge amount of variation between armies. And so your play actually matters more necessarily than your army does. And that's usually my answer to that question. Matt Rendar says, almost done with my game Red Jungle, the supernatural Vietnam skirmish game. Excited to send you a copy when I'm done. Matt, that's exciting, dude. I hope you did the art for it too. If you guys don't know Matt, he's a super talented artist. I think he's still, I don't know if you still work in law enforcement, but you were a sketch artist for a long time, I think. And you have a wonderful Instagram you can check out, full of your art. You do a lot of like mashups and stuff, Star Wars, like contemporary military and Star Wars mashups, just like fucking cool shit. He's a great artist. So I'm stoked if you did the art for your game, man. I hope I get to see it soon. Ben, something, Imitation of Life, does small scale more time. Oh, Imitation of Life is an STL company. Oh, great. Oh, good. The tile saw is running again outside. I hope you guys can't hear that. I delayed this because they're doing construction outside. They're like burying a water line or fixing something in front of the house across the street, and it's been going all day, and they just started cutting again with the tile saw, so I hope you can hear that. Nathan Stadola says, also watched your Highlander based on your references in videos, and it was the most 80s movie. If you haven't seen, oh my God, wait till you see Highlander 2. Highlander 1 is a absolute like treasure, mostly because Queen does the entire soundtrack. So if you haven't seen it, just watch it for the Queen soundtrack. And because they get a Belgian man to play a Scotsman, while they get a Scotsman to play an Egyptian Spaniard. It's so stupid. The casting is so stupid in that movie. Once you really get into the lore of that movie, especially in Highlander 2, where they're all space aliens for some reason, it's so great. Man, just, pull your socks up. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then Nick said, currently using Hero Forge to make the minis for my own game, as it's impossible to find sports fantasy minis for beach sports that don't involve weapons in their hands. Are you also on this volleyball thing? Oh my God, everybody's doing murder volleyball right now. Tom got excited about Samurai Apes. Craziness 15 mil, but I don't know if they're based or not. I'll have to check that out. Every online shop should just have an old section. You're not wrong. Tom says, I like it when whip 12 sucks, but whip 13 is fine for how infrequently the 5% matters. This is fair. Then Captain Ferret says, any desire to do Horus Heresy? Of course. I love Horus Heresy. Probably in the fall. We'll get back to it. There's a bunch of games on my radar right now, though, that I got to get through and do some painting for. And I have tons of painted Horus Heresy armies. The number one thing is it didn't spark the amount of games played the last one did. People got excited to play the game last time. I said this during the review, the game, and of course, the Horus Heresy community disagreed with me, which I understand, because not having the legacy army lists out, losing tons of options, to hear me say something like the game didn't really change that much. It didn't really change that much. It's like a 1.25 edition. But because the army list changed so drastically, if you care about that portion, the metagaming and the building and stuff like that, then yes. But because what you played for didn't really fundamentally change that much. Like, yes, scoring changed, like, scenarios change, that happens, but the core mechanics of the game are roughly the same. Reactions changed a bit. It didn't kick off a whole new desire in me to be like, whoa, this is so fundamentally new. And they kind of sold the like retroisms of like the bringing back the stat lines and stuff to it, where it's just stuff they'd already just used. They used it the same way they used it in Necromunda, where it was kind of a gimmick, and it's neat that you have a different stat for all of your different abilities, but like it doesn't really do that much in the game. But yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it at some point. Nick said Highlander 2 does not exist and never existed. I thought there could only be one Highlander. There's supposed to be. Hey, come on. The TV show Highlander is pretty great, Nick. You have to admit. Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod is still pretty great. Because was it Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod in the movie, and then Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod is like a later Highlander, and they just like don't know each. It's a lot. There's a lot of retcons and everything, but I like the Duncan MacLeod, the TV show Highlander. He's pretty great. It was a good premise for a TV show. It's better than Forever Knight, which I can't believe in 2025 I'm making a Forever Knight, which is a procedural cop drama set in Toronto starring a vampire. It's a early 90s procedural. It's Law and Order starring a vampire. Yeah, check out Forever Knight. If you guys haven't, check out Forever Knight. It's amazing. The TV show for the Crow we don't talk about, though. That's the one I don't do it. Nick Butler says, yeah, mine is called Volley Brawl and features Battle Haggis, which bites players. I'm into it. And then Brian said the Clancy Brown is perfect for the Kurgan. Yeah, I mean, the Kurgan is a one-off character that you can never recreate. It's a role of a lifetime. The only other role I can think of Clancy Brown being in that's as like seminal is playing the Sergeant Zim in whatchamacallit, in Starship Troopers, in a Paul Verhoeven movie. Because Paul Verhoeven movies, if you've been in a Paul Verhoeven movie, that's the thing you get to be for the rest of your life. Look what it did to, what's his name, to the main character of Starship Troopers. He was never in anything else. Love said, did you know that Obi-Wan Kenobi wanted to say, do it again, do it, Anakin. I have the Highlander, because Obi-Wan really liked the movie. I have the Highlander. Oh, I see it. Because you like that movie, but they had to reshoot the line because of legal reasons. So Ewan McGregor really liked the Highlander and said, don't do it, I have the Highland, because of that movie. I could see that. And then they has to cut his head off, which he doesn't do. And then Brian said, I'm totally down with doing the slow grow because of the Horus Heresy blood tax. Agreed. The Highlander was a documentary and it was filmed in real time. That's true. The nice Highlander CCG was a gem. I forgot about that. And then Frank later said, hey, Forever Night had the best line about being pale and tanning. I don't tan, I burn, I combust. And then Ryan Denby said, I just butchered due south with vampires. Okay, there's only one other TV show from Canada better than Forever Night, because Forever Night is a fucking treasure. And it's called TNT. And the reason I watched TNT as a kid, and actually I had a later reference, was because Mr. T was in it. And I loved the A-Team. And TNT was, he played a legal assistant for a Toronto lawyer. And he couldn't, this is a sad thing, is like, he couldn't read. So he like phonetically memorized his lines. It is an insane premise that Mr. T is the research assistant for a crown attorney in Canada. But that was the show. I had like 2 seasons. Anyway, the short story long of that one was, I had this friend when I worked for Workshop in the early 2000s, and he was dating this girl at the time. They're married now, they get kids. But her mom was the lawyer in that TV show. And I remember I went over to their house for dinner, and there was just a picture of Mr. T on the wall, and I was like, I have to know what's happening. Like, why is Mr. T on the wall? And they had all these stories about Mr. T. It was incredible. And then she was the lawyer for Mr. T, or for that TV show. She was an actress, and she was a Canadian actress that was in that TV show. I have this weird, it's 2 Toronto TV shows that you should absolutely watch from the mid-90s, Forever Night and TNT. They are incredible. Anyway, John actually says, have you got back to building and painting? I recall you mentioned awaiting new prescription eyewear. I think at some point I noticed a degradation in my visual acuity. I have been. So all the indie games you've been watching a little while, I've been painting the last little while. So I've gotten some bifocals and I'm back to painting. You can see me painting. If you just go to the Instagram, you can see all of my most recent stuff that I did. And we'll talk about, so people are making comments about TV shows. But yeah, my Instagram has the 1490 Doom stuff I painted, the Hardware stuff I painted, all of the stuff I painted for Flames of Ryan, all the stuff I've been painting for whatchamacallit as well, Full Spectrum Dominance. And then the stuff I just painted recently for 40K, for the 3rd edition 40K project. And I'm painting today. I got so much shit I have to paint this week, it's ridiculous. Clancy Ryan was in Shoot to Kill. People are just mentioning Toronto shows now, so they're mentioning Star Lost and Reboot. Okay, I'll mention one more, which is the horniest TV show ever made in Canada, which is Lex, The Dark Zone, which is an incredible sci-fi premise. Yeah, watch Lex, The Dark Zone, and then what else was filmed in Toronto that was in that era? You know, it doesn't matter. I've done enough deep cuts for today. Let's go back and check out the Patreon questionnaire. I'm losing my mind now. Nick Butler says, PeachyCon 2025 is a community-run event recently wrapped up. It was delivered by Chris Peachy Peach of Peachy Chips channel. It was into its second successful year. Do you feel community cons are growing interest in the hobby space? Yes. Actually, it's not really that original an idea. Adam Loper from what's it called? Adam Loper. He's been doing his own convention in Milwaukee for years now. Or not in Milwaukee. It's in because he's out in what's it called? Not Oshkosh. It's the other one. Washika, I think, or whatever that is. But yeah, he's been doing a convention for like 10 years now. I think it's great. I've actually been thinking about doing something like that for the Throwback Thursday stuff. Because we did it here a little while, maybe like 10 years ago, called the 40K Classic, where we did a 40K, like, it wasn't a tournament. I mean, we played it kind of like a tournament, but it was basically just like a campaign weekend, playing old versions of 40K, using old scenarios, but using current rules. And like, yeah, writing something like that, doing something like that, doing a get together. I think it'd be fun. We could definitely do something like that. And then Nick says, I second Alan's question below. I was going to ask about it, and then how it goes. So Alan said, what happened to the Grimdark podcast? Is the series coming back or on a different channel? Also, there's an Inside Tabletop in the queue soon. So Chris and I obviously took some time off from Inside Tabletop because we went and had a family trip, which like basically ate up that time. But yes, it's coming back, and it's also going to come back in short form because I want to start doing daily, just like videos kind of like this on that channel. Because I think it's worth doing, and I think it's a different, but it's a different content stream than the main one, which is about indie games. So like the Me and GMG channel is about the indie game stuff. And we'll have the other stuff and the Inside Tabletop, I think. And I also want to start doing some invites for some live shows with other people. But yeah, Grimdark Media will be back. I couldn't get enough channels. So like basically to do a separate Grimdark Media channel, I have to do it next year because I don't have enough phone numbers. You can only register 2 channels per year. So remember, we were going to do it. And I ran out of channels, and basically I was trying to split the existing content, and it was the one that got like fridged in the meantime. So I want to do it. I'll keep doing it at some point. People have been sending me tons of questions about like when we're going to review weapons, when we were going to review the monkey, what we were going to do about the Dark Tower thing when it comes out. Like there's tons of content for it right now, and yeah, we just didn't get to it because we lost the sort of like the time to do it too. Then Al says, also, besides Blood Bowl, is there any campaign sports game that you'd recommend? I feel like it's a genre that's not explored enough. Well, obviously, Rumble Slam. Rumble Slam has some fun campaign rules in it, and if you like wrestling, Rumble Slam should be the game that you are already playing. It is it's the fantasy football version of pro wrestling, and it's fucking awesome. It's by TD Combat. You can get every single one of your favorite wrestlers in evil form. The Road Warrior. Amazing. Dog Meat, who's clearly supposed to be a Hardy Boy. The Broger. Slumdog Scrappers, all the dogs. Santo de Plata. Don Baya. Scrungles the Obliterator. Look at how great these are. These are all new. The Knight of Darkness. It's the knight from the friggin' whatchamacallit, from the Monty Python. The All Egyptian Rejects, the Tomb Titans, the Nephthys, Dios Dorado. It's almost gold dust. Brawl Marillion. It's so stupid. Bait and Switch. They've got friggin' Moana characters now. This is amazing. The Executive Branch. Randy Wrathmonger, Grunt Oracle. And then you got actual like rings too with like elastic bands on them. Mr. Sock. This is amazing. Multiple arenas because it's TD Combats. They do everything at MDF. Captain Thatch. Circumference. This is amazing. Yeah, if you guys haven't played this game, this is probably one of my favorite. The Reef Ragers. Oh my god, those are great. Everything about this game is great. I never get tired of this game. Sparkleberry the Unicorn. What in the actual fuck? The Bleeding Heart Foundation, where it's it's the Heart Foundation, but with fucking vampires. The Bodybuilders, but they're undead. These are great. Michelle J. Wolf. It's Michael J. Fox. Oh my god. Just never tired of any of this. Greased Lightning. Knights of the Squared Circle. Rotten Rodents. Oh my god, look at Tin Con. He's amazing. Sir Scratch Flagon. Rotten Fanger. Rolling Bone Single Miniature. He's just selling drugs. Just an orc selling drugs. Why not? The Cadiator. Gomorrah. And I believe there's the TLC Dosh. That's cool. So your actual like winnings. I'm pretty sure the classics are in here too. Triassic 5. That's a hip hop joke. I love that. It's a J5 joke. Pedro and Dedro. Peyote Pete. This is incredible. I haven't been through this in a while. We could just scroll through this and I would die happy. The Fabulous A-Talk. Back Alley Brawl. Okay, so this was the when you'd go outside. So they did an expansion for the game where you would go into the backstage basically at like a pay-per-view, and you'd see like the backstage fights. They got stuff for the backstage fights. And these were the original starters. The Heavy Pounders and the Green Bruisers are the two starter sets. Or the two starter factions from the original line. And they should have a starter set in here somewhere as well. They both came in the starter. But there is a 2-player starter, and it's great. Captain Keelhaul. Oh my god. Lumberjacked. Fang, which is just Blade. Trojan. Brothers Berserk, they got the Road Warriors. Oh my god. Never change. Never change TT Combat. Never change Rebel Slam. There he is, Gunn, the Orc Hulk Hogan. Chuck, which is the Doink. Botticelli, which is a Ninja Turtle. Statesman. Triple D, as opposed to Triple H. Tavern, Comet. Who else we have? Big Andy, which was he's a big guy, so he's a whatchamacallit. He's a Andre the Giant. Ronnie Salvage, hell yeah. Baxter the British Bulldog. Vitamir. I think Officer Reno. It looks like Reno 911. It looks like Officer Dangle. Toothpick, which is Splinter. A Grassy Ring. Bases. Yeah, everything's cool. The Gravedigger, because you have to have that too. Anyway, no notes. Still fantastic. Play Rumble Slam. It's a great game. I haven't played it in a while. Going back to, because I missed the chat, and I'll finish off the Patreon questions in a second. Because we're overtime now, but I'm going to try and finish this up. Mike says, what was the show with the bounty hunters? We saw that one actress outside the store in Fairview. Oh, shit. It was the Tia Carrere one. This is like Deep Cut. Mike and I used to work together at the Games Workshop in Fairview Mall. Was it Relic Hunter? I think it was Relic Hunter, not Bounty Hunters. I think we saw Tia Carrere in Relic Hunter because it filmed in Toronto as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Tia Carrere. If you guys don't remember Tia Carrere, she was the love interest in whatchamacallit, in Wayne's World, and she briefly had a Canadian TV show. Brian says, gotta go pick up the kid. Later, Clue Patrons. Adios, man. And then Disgruntled says, Mike says, I didn't even know Lex was in Toronto. Nice. It was a weird show. It was a very weird show. It was a lot of green screen, though, and like weird sets. So I think it was done at White's in Toronto. It was on an actual soundstage because it was like a sci-fi show. Bear Turtles here. What's up, McLeo patrons? What's up, man? And then Drankler says, oh man, the third wave. Oh shit, I forgot about the third wave. That's another one. There's Earth Final Conflict and the third wave, which were some, and of course Sci Factor, but Sci Factor was East Coast. And Ryan says, Ash, my dad stumbled across the bridge console from Lex in an abandoned part of a building as a firefighter in Halifax, what eventually became the Nova Scotia Power head office. Well, then maybe part of it was in Halifax. That's entirely possible. And Malev says, I've been thinking about doing a little Malev convention. You should do that. And then Brian said, AshCon 2025. And it shall be called Maleficon. That's a good one. I like that. Can I come back in Pog form? I want GMG Pogs. ShinobiCon. That's a good one. And then Ben said, Connery was better in Zardoz. Yes, his bikini was the best in Zardoz. His man diaper that he wore. And Poodle says, can't you just buy like $10 prepaid SIM cards? I mean, maybe. I don't even know what's happening now. Nick says, it'd be good to see you and Jordan Sorcery do a film club moment, as Jordan is up and running on that too. Oh, that'd be awesome. And Raincoast Bears here, fantastic, all the way from BC. And then Zach said, I played Rumble Slam yesterday. Tom said, weirdly, I like wrestling, but I have no interest in Rumble Slam. I think you'd have fun with it. It's one of those games where like, it's like Blood Bowl. Once you've played it, you've kind of played it. You know what I mean? Like, unless you get a bunch of people that are excited about like building lore around it. What it really needs, it needs a wrestler creation system so you can make your own wrestlers. And then a Grim Fandango reference for El Mecanico. It is. It's going to work. So I skipped right past Tenacious D. Well, they've broken up. I'm skipping past them now. And then Reiko says Relic Hunter. Mike Christian says it was a sci-fi show, though. Oh, I don't know. I don't even remember. And then Zach said, you missed the Senelian, a John Cena chameleon. Not surprised you can't see him. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, true. And then Rankers Bear says Lex was made in Halifax. I thought parts of it were. I think the production, though, like the actual like editing and production was in Toronto because I knew some people like worked there. And Alpha $5 says, thanks for going through so many indie games. Thank you. Well, that's what the main channel is about. The main channel is about supporting and promoting Guerrilla Miniature Games because that's what it's on. So I got one more question in the Patreon questionnaire, and then we're going to talk about what's coming up in the week. And that is Kevin T says, I'm writing my first game system. No plans on printing it, but I just wanted a game for the group that combined my favorite systems. If I ever do want to share it, how close can it be to other systems before it's in bad faith? It depends on if you're going to charge money for it or not, man. If you're uncomfortable with that, just give it away for free, and that doesn't matter. It's just you iterating on a thing you like, doing your own version of it, and give it away for free, or pay what you want. I think that's the thing where if you're I look at that kind of like there's a DJ named Pretty Lights. I'm gonna do one of my things where I tell a story now. And yeah, and like it's gonna kind of be relevant. I hope this makes sense. Anyway, Pretty Lights, which you can go check out his website. I actually became a big fan of Pretty Lights because of the art that he used in his stuff, like his albums and stuff. It was very like 70s sci-fi, and he puts on great shows. Yeah, I can see here. Look at this art. It's very 70s sci-fi, and I love his art a lot, especially this one. Look at this thing. Look how cool this is. So basically what he did was he wanted to use a lot of samples, and he was a poor student. And so what he did was, but he made these incredible remixes and mashups and stuff like that. He does one that's Steve Miller Band's "Fly Like an Eagle," mashed up with like an electronic. It was kind of like late dubsteppy, kind of wobbly, like electronic music, but it was more house music, and or like even like break beats. And he just gave it away for free. So that was his solve. He was just like, well, I still want to make this music. I have this great idea to mash up this stuff. I'm like a poor, like 20-year-old kid at the time. I think it was like 2008, 2009. And he just gave it away for free. He just uploaded to YouTube, didn't monetize it, gave it away for free. So I look at it kind of in the same realm where like, if you like a mechanic and you like a way that a thing works, you can just kitbash it and give it away for free. That's I think the best way of doing it, and then don't feel bad about it because it's just you remixing basically, or doing like a mashup or an homage. And DJs do that all the time with music, and be clear with what your references are. You know what I mean? Like just list them in the front end and be open and obvious about it. The opposite of AI art. Like if you're not stealing, if you're using pieces and remixing something, you can make something really beautiful, and you can do your own imagination on that, and then just be honest about it. Like no DJ pretends. Like if you look at, for instance, like there's that great bit in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse where they mash up like Black Sheep with like Apache by the Sugar Hill Gang, and it's this huge like tagging scene with the protagonist. They paid for the rights to that music and they mashed it up, and it's fantastic. You know, they don't pretend like they didn't use other people's music and like mash them together. So just do that and it'll be fine. So let's end off with the other thing I'm really excited about right now, which we need to talk about because it's a coming, and I don't know when he's going to launch it, but Malev, and this was on the title card, has been super hard at work on, and I say this for the FREE-PISODE, on Greathelm. And if you guys haven't checked out Greathelm, this was his contribution to the One Box Wargaming Challenge that he ran, where you take a single box. In this case, he used this box right here, this one. Age of Chivalry Foot Knights from Wargames Atlantic, which you can grab for, I think you get like a bajillion minis for $45. How many is it? Like fully posable 24 Foot Knights for, you know, basically $1 or $2 each. And this was his rule book that he made, and he's doing a crowdfund coming up soon, so you can go and sign up to the crowdfund. This is my like call to action if you guys want a call to action today. Everyone else, Andrew's gonna be mad at me because my call to action should be, hey, go sign up for the Patreon so you can support indie games. But the thing that we do in the indie game sphere, which I think most other Patreons don't do, is we actually just share money and patrons around. And so I'm going to tell you guys to go and hit follow for Greathelm, because this is Malev's first like fully published, he's doing it himself, book. Obviously you can see some of his art. It's been done by our good friend Sean Sutter, fantastic fantasy artist who makes Relic Blade, and it's his micro skirmish game. So it's basically you play this game on a 8.5 11 piece of printer paper, and you'll have like 6 knights per side, and it's a cool combat game. So yeah, if you want to get the lowdown on it, you can go to Kickstarter's Greathelm page. You can just Google that, and there's some playtest stuff still available. I don't know when he's going to be launching this campaign. Little Birds have not told me yet, but go check it out because he's put a ton of work into this. I know his heart's really like super excited about like doing this. And he's also off helping other people do their games. There's him with Miniac, playtesting Miniac's volleyball game. And he's been helping out our good friend Magos Burer, friend of the channel, who obviously we did a bunch of 49 Doom these last couple weeks too, with his 49 Doom project. So like, yeah, this is his first solo gig, his first like going out there. I think everybody should go and check it out. And that's my call to action today. So Andrew, be mad at me for not shutting out the Patreon and saying, hey, this is what we do. We basically just in the indie boutique sphere, we just pass money and supporters back and forth between us like a volleyball. because it's, you know, not a zero-sum game and everybody needs to eat, and there's lots of fantastic creative artists out there, and you should support real art and not AI art and not people just, I don't know, people making knockoff minis for other people's games. And what have I got here at the end as we go through the chat? People are not, everyone's just talking about how old we all are. Ghostman says there's nothing new under the sun. Everything creative was inspired by something else. This is true. And then Ryan said, my first game, I yoinked the Infinity activation system and built a completely different game around it. Owen and I did that at one point. We made a Song of Ice and Fire game based on the Infinity rules, which was a lot of fun. Owl Shield says Greathelm rocks. And then Lamashta says, what was Rogue Trader but Games Workshop's obsession with Sherlock Holmes, Star Wars, the Pink Panther, and Dune. Never forget the Dune's in there too. And then Ryan said, sign up for the Patreon. You can hear more about what Malev does too. That's true. And it does look pretty great. Yes, I think so as well. So stay tuned. Obviously, if you're a patron, you're going to get the poll today for our next indie game. I wouldn't be surprised if after this, they all vote for Greathelm because it's on there right now for us to do a review for it. And yeah, stay tuned for tomorrow. We're going to kick off the $20 Void Fighters challenge. I'm going to try and get Void Fighters put together in the short time between now and then, along with 7 million other projects that we want to play. So it should be super fun. And yeah, and I hope you guys have a great week. We've done our hour. Oh my God, I went over an hour 10. But we've done our free episode for the month. You can catch me next Monday if you're a patron, obviously on patreon.com/GreathelmMiniatureGames. And you'll see the next episode. I think, hang on, what's next? What's tomorrow? I think we're done 1492 for 3 episodes. Basically, there's indie game content already recorded and uploaded going into October. Tomorrow is so we're back. We're into Flames of Orion now. So if you guys caught the Flames of Orion Let's Play, we've done 3 episodes of Fortnite Doom now. It'll be back after 3 episodes. We're going back and forth 3 and 3. And this Wednesday, actually, I believe, finishing. Or is it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. I gotta double check. Tyler's coming in basically so we can finish off. The whatchamacallit, the Flames of Orion campaign. Because we triggered the end game. We have to fight the Ultra Mech. We found it basically in the campaign system. But you got 6 episodes of Flames of Orion coming up as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes. 5 more episodes coming up. And then it'll be, 3 episodes of that, then 3 episodes of 14 Doom, and then the Sumar conflict ends on episode 6. But yeah, we've got a ton more indie content coming up. And then on Wednesday, it's Port Royale by Firelock Games. You can check out that episode of the Indie Hour. And then we've got reviews on the weekend and a bunch of stuff for Throwback Thursday and a bunch of stuff for the Void Fighters. And then hopefully some stuff for as we already talked about it, for the Inside Tabletop coming up as well. So if you're not subscribed to those channels, go check them out because obviously there will be tons of more content coming up the rest of the week. And I think that's it. I think we're done. Star Hunter was the show. Ash, it took me a while to Google it because I was having trouble remembering it. Oh my God. G. Smith says next Monday is Labor Day. Sure it is. If you think my labors end just because it's Labor Day, you are sadly mistaken. I will still be live on Labor Day, as my work is never ending. So I'll see you guys. If you're a patron, I'll see you on Wednesday for the Indie Hour as we record that, and more stuff for the rest of the week. So stay tuned. Bye, everybody.